Chicago has always been a city with a strong voice, a city where people don't stay silent when they feel pushed to the edge. The latest escalation between former President Donald Trump and Chicago is proof of that spirit. Residents have stepped forward with anger, frustration, and a determination to be heard. They're saying enough is enough, and their voices are starting to shape the national conversation. So, what exactly is happening? Why is Chicago erupting against Trump now, and what makes this clash different from previous moments of tension? To understand that, we have to look at both the immediate triggers and the long history between Trump and this city. For years, Trump has spoken harshly about Chicago. He often paints the city as a place of crime, chaos, and failure, pointing to statistics about violence and poverty. On one hand, it's true that Chicago has long struggled with gun violence and social inequality. But on the other hand, the way Trump frames the issue often feels to residents like an attack, not just on the problems, but on the people themselves, including hard-working families, immigrant communities, and especially minorities like Muslims who call this city home and contribute to its growth every single day. Chicago is one of the most diverse cities in America. From the south side to the north, you'll find cultures blending, businesses thriving, and communities of all backgrounds living side by side. The city has a vibrant Muslim population, too. Business owners, doctors, teachers, activists, people who are part of the city's heartbeat. But when Trump speaks about Chicago in blanket terms, as if it's only a place of danger, many residents feel like he's erasing the positive stories, the resilience, and the contributions that make Chicago what it is. That's why the anger is boiling over now. Recently, Trump once again highlighted Chicago in his speeches, doubling down on the idea that the city is failing and needs extreme measures to fix it. For residents, this felt like more than just political talk. It felt like an insult. And the response has been clear. People are tired of being spoken about as if they re-problems instead of people. They re-tired of being used as an example in national debates while their actual voices are ignored. This is why you're seeing protests, rallies, and statements from local leaders saying enough is enough. Now, when we say Chicago erupted, it's not just about shouting in the streets. It's about a deeper movement, a community demanding respect. People are pointing out that the issues Trump criticizes are not problems created by ordinary residents, but the result of decades of systemic challenges. Lack of investment in certain neighborhood schools that need better funding, jobs that have moved away, and policies that sometimes overlooked the most vulnerable. By reducing Chicago to a talking point, Trump dismisses all the complexity and the real human stories involved. And let's not forget, Chicago has stood up to Trump before. This isn't the first time the city has clashed with him. Back in his presidential campaign, Chicagoans organized one of the most memorable protests, shutting down a rally. That moment showed the country that Chicago was not afraid to push back, especially against rhetoric that many felt targeted immigrants and Muslims. Those wounds haven't fully healed, and when Trump raises the same themes again today, it reopens them. But this isn't only about anger. Residents are also proposing solutions. Community activists are saying, if we want to address violence, let's focus on education, jobs, and community programs. If we want safer neighborhoods, let's create opportunities for young people instead of demonizing them. Muslims in Chicago, for example, have been running after-school programs, charity initiatives, and outreach efforts that directly tackle these challenges. Their work often goes unnoticed in the national narrative, but locally, people know how vital these contributions are. So when Trump ignores this side of the story, it's not surprising that people feel insulted. Another key part of the eruption is the generational divide. Younger Chicagoans, many of whom grew up during the Trump presidency, have seen how words from powerful figures can shape the way they're treated in schools, at work, and even on the streets. For Muslim youth, this was especially true after policies like the travel ban, which left many feeling singled out. So today, when Trump again puts Chicago in his crosshairs, young people are not staying quiet. They're leading protests, making their voices heard online, and demanding that politicians stop treating their city as a punching bag. From a broader perspective, this moment highlights a bigger question. What does it mean for a city to stand up to a political figure? For Chicago, it's about identity. The city prides itself on being tough, resilient, and unapologetically diverse. When residents say they've had enough, it's not just about Trump, it's about defending that identity. It's about saying we're not just the crime statistics you read on paper, we're families, workers, communities, and yes, Muslims who want to live in peace, contribute positively, and be respected. Let's dig deeper into the numbers because technical details matter too. Trump often cites crime rates in Chicago as evidence of failure. Yes, the city has challenges with violence, particularly related to gun crime, but experts point out that this issue is tied to broader national problems, like the flow of illegal firearms across state lines, poverty concentrated in certain neighborhoods, and a lack of mental health resources. Simply blaming the city ignores how much these problems are shaped by national policies and economic trends. It also ignores the progress. Community groups have successfully reduced violence in some areas by focusing on mentorship, education, and providing alternatives for young people. Muslims in particular have been part of these efforts through non-profit organizations and mosque-based initiatives. So when Trump overlooks this, Chicago residents feel that the truth is being distorted. There's also an economic dimension. Chicago is not a city in decline, as Trump sometimes suggests. It's home to global companies, world-class universities, and thriving cultural industries. But inequality is the real challenge. Certain neighborhoods prosper while others struggle. For people living in the struggling areas, it's frustrating to see their problems turned into campaign talking points rather than genuine efforts at solutions. That frustration is part of why the eruption feels so strong this time. Emotionally, too, there's a deep layer. For Muslim families, Trump's repeated attacks on Chicago echo a larger pattern of being unfairly judged. When he talks about Chicago as dangerous, many feel it connects back to how Muslims were spoken about during his presidency, painted as a threat rather than recognized as citizens, neighbors, and contributors. In response, Muslims in Chicago are raising their voices, reminding everyone that they are part of the solution, not the problem. They highlight their work in education, healthcare, charity, and business as proof that their presence strengthens the city. Chicago's eruption also reveals a cultural clash. Trump's political style thrives on strong rhetoric, calling out places and people in ways that draw attention. But Chicago's culture is built on pride and community defense. When someone attacks the city, residents don't back down. They take it personally, and they push back collectively. That's exactly what we're seeing now. Looking forward, the big question is, will this confrontation change anything? Will politicians start addressing Chicago's concerns in a more respectful, constructive way? Or will the city continue to be a political football? What's clear is that residents, including Muslims and other minorities, are saying they won't accept being used as symbols of failure. They want their actual stories told, their actual efforts recognized, and their dignity respected. The eruption we're witnessing isn't just noise, it's a demand for change. It's people insisting that the narrative about their city has to shift. Instead of being painted only through negativity, Chicago is showing that it's full of life, energy, resilience, and communities that refuse to be silenced.